Amidst the dark night, torrential rain poured down on the curved tile roofs of an ancient building, signaling an ill omen. Rainwater overflowed across the sign reading, Hak Tumon, where a deathly aura shrouded the silent space. A mysterious traveler wearing a bamboo hat concealing his face and a tattered straw raincoat stood silently before the main gate like a reaper. Thunder roared, tearing through the sky as lightning illuminated a lonely back full of killing intent facing the enemy's lair. He calmly stepped into the wide courtyard, facing a line of guards arrayed on stone steps with weapons in hand. A disciple's face turned pale, cold sweat mixing with rainwater, teeth gritting in sheer terror. He screamed to warn his comrades. "He's come! The nameless swordsman is here!" Then frantically ordered, "Kill him!" Hearing the shout, a crowd of assassins lunged down like a flood, brandishing blades with intent to butcher the intruder. However, that dark shadow dashed away, weaving through sharp spears surrounding him so fast that the naked eye couldn't keep up. In the midst of the encirclement, the swordsman lowered his center of gravity into a draw stance, radiating a black aura that swallowed all incoming attacks. Bandaged hands gripped the hilt, concentrating inner power into the steel blade, preparing to unleash a draw technique faster than a lightning strike. The blade swung, tearing through space, followed by a pungent rain of blood as the sharp edge sliced through enemy flesh. Fresh blood splattered, obscuring vision. Extreme horror appeared on the twisted face of the disciple who realized death had arrived. Beneath the rim of the soaked bamboo hat, the Reaper's eyes flashed with a cold gaze, piercing the trembling hearts of the survivors. Ignoring the fear, heavy footsteps trampled the puddles as the crowd frantically charged, trying to overwhelm him with numbers. A commander roared, "Kill him!" The command echoing to force the hesitating lackeys to risk their lives. He slammed his heel down to halt his momentum, splashing rainwater, using the counterforce to shift his attack in an instant. A brutal horizontal sweep carrying 1,000 pounds of force shattered weapons and sent those in his way flying. He lowered his stance, weaving through a forest of blades, his ghost-like movement making all enemy strikes hit empty air. After a series of violent moves, he gripped the blood-stained hilt again, his killing intent still swirling like an unfinished death sentence. Fresh blood erupted once more, creating dark red streaks in the air as the brutal blade tore through flesh. He lunged into the center like a black whirlwind, the blade spinning into a steel wall crushing everything in its path. Suddenly, a giant swung a heavy broadsword at his head with full force, accompanied by a thunderous roar. The giant grinned savagely, convinced he had cornered his prey, shouting triumphantly, "Caught you, you bastard!" But in that life-or-death moment, the sword tip trembled slightly, a blue light signaling a lightning-fast counterattack. A sharp SHRK sounded, space seemingly sliced in half by a strike so fast it left a cold afterimage. He landed softly behind, while the giant's body slowly split in two, blood pouring like a waterfall dyeing the ground red. The giant's eyes rolled back, unable to believe the cruel reality, whispering, "How? Even from behind?" The only response was a cold, emotionless gaze hidden under the bamboo hat, devoid of any hesitation toward the death just granted. The figure of the Reaper faded into the torrential rain, leaving behind cold corpses scattered in the silent night. Rain continued to drizzle into the murky puddles, where a severed arm lay beside a broken sword, signaling a tragic end. Amidst the battlefield strewn with corpses, the sole victor stood in the rain, letting the water wash away the pungent scent of blood. Without hesitation, he stepped over the cold bodies, heading straight into the silent inner courtyard of the manor. There, a figure in white robes embroidered with a black snake sat with his back turned, meditating calmly as if he had been waiting for a long time. The man's back radiated an extraordinary aura with two black snakes winding on his robe, a sword lying loosely beside him but ready to be drawn. The old man slowly raised his head, revealing an old, scarred face with a deep, unpredictable smirk of a superior being. The two faced each other in the dark night, one drenched in the storm, the other sitting dry, observing his prey. Suddenly, lightning streaked across the night sky, its blinding flash highlighting the soaring killing intent. The air seemed to freeze, the old man's sharp eyes scrutinizing, contrasting perfectly with the swordsman's hidden face. Breaking the deathly silence, the old man narrowed his clouded eyes and asked, "So, you are the nameless swordsman?" To the probing question, he remained as still as a rock, silence enveloping the lonely shadow in the rain. The old man smirked mockingly, pointing at him. "Humph! If you are a swordsman of justice, why hide yourself so thoroughly?" Cold eyes under the hat flicked up, and he replied curtly and chillingly, "Because I am not that kind of person." The old man's eyes narrowed in suspicion, questioning his contradictory actions. Not a swordsman of justice? Then why hunt and kill the evil sect? He snapped his head up, eyes bulging and bloodshot, revealing a truly insane nature. "I am not a righteous swordsman." Looking into those red eyes full of frantic, distorted killing intent, the old man's smile froze, replaced by shock as he realized the truth. Then the old man burst into laughter as if hearing the world's funniest joke. "Heh, so you've deceived them all." He spread his arms in the rain, red eyes affirming the naked truth. "I deceived no one. They simply believed what they wanted to believe." A blue aura began to cover his arm. The old man slowly reached for his sword, battle intent burning. "You are indeed an interesting fellow." He unsheathed the blade, a violent burst of energy erupting, ready to accept death in the final battle. "Even if I must cross the river of the dead today, I think I will have no regrets." The old man roared madly, deathly aura erupting. "Come, whether you are the nameless swordsman or anyone else, coming to kill me is all the same." Responding to the provocation, the shadow lunged, the blade trailing a glowing red streak through the rain towards the enemy's vital point. The old man showed no mercy, channeling inner power into his long sword, radiating an eerie blue light, ready for a life-or-death clash. Both suddenly halted, space frozen, all attention focused on a single raindrop falling slowly between them. The moment the drop shattered on the ground, the signal for death was triggered, breaking the suffocating silence. Blood-red eyes flashed under the hat as he unleashed a decisive strike beyond the limits of reflex, the blade turning into black lightning. The sharp edge sliced clean across the old man's face, leaving a fatal wound and a look of shock. The battle ended as quickly as it began, the sound of rain resuming, washing away the resentment shrouding the desolate mountain. He stepped through murky puddles, his cold footsteps echoing evenly, leaving behind the corpse of the defeated. Fresh blood slowly dripped from the cold sword tip, marking the end of the Black Death Gate leader on this fateful night. Amidst the pouring rain, he wore a savage, demonic smile, gripping the scabbard as if savoring the aftertaste of death. Thunder roared, shaking the heavens and earth. Under the flash of lightning, the red eyes of the psychopath glowed, his blood-soaked face exuding ultimate madness without humanity. The scene shifted to a silent pool of dark red blood, where a fragile plum blossom petal gently fell. The petal lay lonely beside the body of a long-dead disciple, eyes staring into the void with resentment and horror. A brutal foot crushed the petal, stomping into the blood pool and splashing the pungent liquid, signaling uninvited guests. The back of the newcomer radiated majesty, wearing the uniform of a prestigious righteous sect, looking at the devastation. Behind him, 10,000 martial artists marched up the stone steps under a crimson sunset, banners filling the sky. The grand figures of the righteous path stopped, faces hardening at the thick scent of death, letting out a sigh. "Ha!" Witnessing the corpses strewn across the courtyard, someone couldn't hide their shock. "Is this truly the Manhwa sect I knew?" A Shaolin monk pressed his hands together in prayer, face aghast at the endless sea of blood. "Oh, Amitba!" A sect leader roared in fury. "This is the work of a demon. Who dares to bathe Manhwa in blood?" Then froze. "Wait, someone is approaching." From the crimson mist shrouding the great hall, a lone dark shadow trudged out, facing the entire righteous martial world. He walked unsteadily, heavy feet treading on blood-slicked stone. Undaunted by the crushing pressure, covered in blood, he bowed his head, his raspy voice sounding like a call from hell. "Mount Hua has been wiped out." Someone in the crowd recognized the familiar clothing and shouted in shock. "It's the Plum Blossom Swordsman. You're still alive." He raised his face, covered in bloody tears, a twisted smile appearing as he uttered the rest with arrogance. "Because of just this one person?" Immediately, a brilliant red sword intent exploded from him, forming a blinding cross signaling the start of a destructive attack. The old monk's eyes widened in horror, frantically shouting to the panicked crowd, "He's coming! Attack! Stop him!" But before the command could be executed, the crimson strike carrying terrifying force swept across, tearing space and crushing those in its way. Killing intent exploded, dyeing the space red, as martial experts channeled their energy to create a solid wall against the coming storm. A swordsman gritted his teeth, sharp eyes reflected in his shining blade, focusing all his spirit on defense. Suddenly, a red inner energy condensed in midair, turning into a distorted demonic silhouette as if to swallow everything. The leader couldn't contain his rage, screaming into the blood-red mist, "You bastard! Reveal yourself immediately!" The response was only a heavy step into the blood pool, splashing pungent droplets. From the darkness, a hand reached out, dangling the bloody head of their comrade, red blood still dripping. The horrific sight made even the Shaolin monk and Wudong leader freeze, faces tightening in extreme tension. Members of the Qingcheng sect and the Namgung family drew their swords, pointing them at the madman standing tall. He revealed a scarred bare chest, sword in one hand, holding the skull high with the other, speaking with cold irony. "Well, quite a crowd you've gathered here." Without giving them time to react, his eyes flashed with overwhelming pressure as he roared, shaking the entire field. "Silence!" Before that arrogance, a resentful sect leader shouted, "Who are you? Why did you commit such a cruel massacre?" He nonchalantly scratched his head with the back of his blade, replying boredly, "I came because people rumored Manhwa was the strongest." Before he finished, his figure vanished, leaving only a blur tearing through the wind so fast no one could react. A dull thud sounded. The Manhwa leader's head rolled on the cold ground, eyes still wide open. Shadows covered his emotionless face as he looked at the headless corpse and spoke with deep disappointment. "Turns out, rumors can't be trusted." The great masters stared in shock at the skull, cold sweat pouring as they identified him. That person, could it be the sect leader of Manhwa? Before they could recover, his blood-stained sword tip slowly rose, pointing directly at the righteous sects in challenge. He looked down at them like ants, smirking. "Well, you've all come in a pack. Then you must be stronger than Manhwa, right?" Unable to endure the insult, an old man roared, eyes burning with skyrocketing fury. "Enough!" The sect leaders channeled their power, killing intent exploding in a declaration of war. "We will kill you right here, to sacrifice to the souls of the Manhwa sect." In the eye of the storm of the earth-shattering battle, he calmly watched the clash of ultimate techniques and let out a cold snort. Humph! Eyes wide with excitement, he flashed a twisted, perverse smile, exclaiming with glee, "This place is truly fun." But all of that scene was just digital data, as his image shattered into pixels, revealing a man wearing a virtual reality headset in a dark room. A dry click of buckles sounded as he slowly removed the VR headset from his head. Ending the dramatic login session, he let out a long sigh, phew, relaxing his weary body onto the sofa, returning to the quiet reality after hours of frenzied killing. Rubbing his throat, he muttered an analysis of the battle with dissatisfaction. "Is an all-out attack from that many people still too much for me?" His eyes glanced at the game case lying on the table, with the words Murim Online printed eerily under the dim light. This is Murim Online, a recently released virtual reality martial arts game that is taking the gaming community by storm. It is famous for its extreme violence, nakedly depicting barbaric killing scenes, where decapitations, bloodshed, and severed limbs are commonplace. And although flooded with complaints demanding the service be shut down because it's too cruel, that very madness is the opium that attracts bloodthirsty people. His eyes were glued to the phone screen with manic fascination, whispering to himself, "There's no other game like it." On the news, An editor was urgently announcing a shocking event. Breaking news. Mr. No of the Dido group is missing. He leaned back on the chair, watching the news about his own victim, calmly learning from experience. Next time, I'll have to use a more discreet method. Hand rubbing his chin, calculating for his next sick plans, he muttered to himself. Assassination might be a good way. His train of thought was cut off by sobbing coming from the dark cellar behind the secret door. Hic, help, hic, under the flickering light shining down into the dungeon. The weak, desperate voice of the captive rang out. Help me! He turned his head to glance back at the photo on the TV, then looked down at the person moaning, suddenly realizing he had forgotten something. Ah, right? His hand coldly reached out, gripping the cold metal bar standing in the corner, preparing for a new round of torture. The person kneeling on the floor was the illustrious boss of the Dido group, now just a trembling ant begging, "Please, spare me." His face was swollen and bathed in tears. Extreme terror showed in his eyes as he uttered a hopeless cry for help. "Help me!" In the cold, dark cellar, he shouldered the sledgehammer, squatting down to look at the man cowering in fear before him. His soulless eyes peered into the other's soul. He asked sarcastically, "You want me to help you?" The battered director, tears streaming down his face, tried to explain. Listen, I don't know why you captured me, but I really didn't do anything." He leaned his face close to the old man, creating a suffocating pressure that choked the lies in the old man's throat. Suddenly, he threw the photos down, exposing evidence of crimes that made the old man gasp in horror. How did you get these things?" He stood up, twirling the hammer handle in his hand and uttering a cold judgment. "If you really did nothing wrong, then you wouldn't have become my prey." The truth exposed, the old man wailed miserably, begging in utter despair. "I regret it. Please, please spare my life." He grabbed the crying man's head, his voice dropping low with boredom. "But you know, this phrase, spare my life." A twisted smile appeared on his face as he whispered, "Whether it's said by me or heard by you." He swung the sledgehammer high, killing intent exploding red in the room as he delivered the finishing blow. "Isn't it too boring already?" Just as the hammer was about to touch flesh, a surge of red killing intent suddenly erupted from the eye of the kneeling person, deflecting the lethal blow. A roar echoed throughout the cellar, no longer weak begging but the furious rage of an insulted superior. He swung his hand down hard on the floor, but the director quickly rolled to dodge, causing the attack to hit nothing but air. He slid backward to keep his distance, observing the man scrambling to his feet with incredibly agile movements. The muscles on the man's wrists suddenly bulged, tense against the plastic ties cutting into his flesh. With just a violent jerk, the ties snapped and flew everywhere, freeing the fat director's hands from constraint. His face twisted with anger, teeth grinding as he cursed the one who dared to torture him. "This damned son of a bitch." Ugh! He snatched the hammer, eyes glowing blue with killing intent, gritting his teeth and declaring, "You're done for, kid." Witnessing his prey transform into a beast, a bright, sickly smile bloomed on his lips. "Isn't that line a bit old?" The old man swung the hammer down like a thunderbolt with a shout of "Die!" But he quickly ducked under his opponent's arm to dodge the blow. He loomed up, a dark shadow swallowing the director who was panting from exhaustion. The long iron bar in his hand sliced through the wind, aimed straight at his opponent's vital point without mercy. The old man swung the hammer to parry, but his overwhelming strength immediately crushed all efforts of resistance. A horrific collision knocked the old man flying backward, slamming into the wall and sliding down to the ground. The brutal force of the attack left a blurry afterimage, shaking the entire dungeon space. The old man coughed up blood, gritting his teeth and cursing in excruciating pain. "You damned son of a bitch." Ugh! In response, he just sneered, eyes glowing red like a beast. "You're the one who will die, piece of meat." That smile of death stunned the old man, terror invading his mind as he realized his fated end. Without letting the old man recover, he unleashed a thunderous kick that sent his large body flying into the air. The old man fell freely onto the cold ground, eyes rolled back white, whole body paralyzed lying motionless like a sack of meat. The fat man crawled backward, waving his hands and screaming in utter panic. Stay away from me! The fear of death choked his mind, making him scream frantically, I don't want to die! Because most humans are herbivores. Among the few carnivores, they attack, hunt, and devour those weaker than themselves. And as for me, I am the hunter who hunts those carnivores. He held the hammer and trudged forward, the shadow of death gradually swallowing the prey trembling on the floor. A red eye flashed with killing intent. He affirmed his own identity. I am a hunter. The old man cowered, stammering and waving him away in utter despair. I told you, stay away from me, stay away. When death was imminent, he clutched his head and screamed a final curse. Don't come near here, you son of a bitch! The iron door was kicked open. Blinding light from outside rushed into the dark cellar, interrupting the torture session. Heavily armed police with riot shields quickly stormed in from the door. Heavy boots pounded on the cold floor, creating a steel encirclement tightening with no escape. From behind the police barricade, the commander's sharp shout rang out clearly, Freeze! A detective in a suit stepped forward, sharp eyes calling out the perpetrator's name directly. Dong Bongsu. He raised his badge, declaring a series of unforgivable charges. On charges of kidnapping, illegal confinement, and murder, face set with indignation. He looked straight into his eyes and delivered the final verdict. You are under arrest. The response to the sentence was only his soulless red eyes, without any wavering or fear. Amidst the encirclement, the only question in his mind was, how did the police find this place? Without a warning word, the deafening sound of gunfire rang out, the gun barrel flashing fire and tearing through the quiet space. The policeman pointed the gun, voice low and powerful. I told you to freeze, you son of a bitch. He squeezed the trigger. Final warning. This is real ammo. The bullet embedded itself in the wall right next to his head. But his red eye remained blank. Not a hint of fear. He calmly faced dozens of police surrounding him, alone against the entire armed force. His bloodshot eyes suddenly widened. This chaotic scene seemed strangely familiar. This situation feels so familiar. An evil and amused smirk suddenly appeared on his lips. The captain frowned, questioning him. Are you aware of the situation? Under the spotlight, the fat man trembled as he was exposed. This man killed a total of 6 women. The horrible truth was revealed. He tortured, took photos for pleasure while abusing victims, then killed them. The policeman exposed the truth about the mummy collection. The bodies next to him are all of the same ilk. Most of them are murderers. His glowing red pupils reflected the naked truth. These guys are animals. They are carnivores specializing in hunting normal people. He looked up, eyes bulging, affirming his identity. And I am simply a hunter specializing in hunting them. Hearing that, the fat man screamed in panic. Understand? The one you should shoot isn't me, but this bastard. The captain calmly lit a cigarette, gun still on target, letting out a cold remark. Is that so? Because all he saw was a psychopathic killer specializing in kidnapping and murder. His eyes glanced over, final patience seeming to have run out. He threw his head back and sighed in boredom. Yeah, I think so too. Talking to the police is useless. Without hesitation, his hand gripped the iron bar, preparing to execute the death sentence himself. Seeing that action, the captain screamed in horror and futility. Stop! But it was too late. The black shadow dashed away like a tornado, ignoring all orders and gun barrels pointed at him. Fresh blood splattered as the bullet lodged straight into his chest, ending the killer's life in an instant. Between the boundary of life and death, his glowing red eye didn't go out, a final wish flashing. If I had one more chance to live, I hope it would be full of beasts for me to kill to my heart's content. Yes, a place like the martial world. The bloodstain on the cold wall marked the end of a madman's life. A dazzling blue light suddenly enveloped his soul, pulling it into a strange dimension full of digital data. He let out a miserable scream as his body was reconstructed, pain tearing his soul worse than death. He opened his eyes, gasping in utter astonishment. I'm alive? But clearly I was shot. An unfamiliar voice spoke with suspicion. Huh, I'm sure you died, but you're still alive. He looked up, red pupils flashing with wariness. scanning the stranger and the unfamiliar surroundings. The man frowned, looking down at the one who just returned from the dead with an annoyed face. But this bastard! The brute grabbed him by the collar, tightening his grip until he gasped for air. He roared in his face. "Hey! Do you have any idea how much effort I put into dragging your broken body back here from the market?" Facing the threat, his bloodshot eyes bulged with killing intent. "You son of a bitch! Do you really want me to kill you for real?" The man clicked his tongue in disdain and tossed him into the corner of the room. "Hey, see you tomorrow. By then, you'll be nothing but a corpse." Left in the shadows, his glowing red pupils flashed with a lethal gaze, signaling an imminent eruption of fury. He scrambled up, hands trembling as he held the cold bowl of porridge, eyes still fixed on the departing figure's back. The wooden door slowly closed, cutting off the last sliver of light, imprisoning him in the absolute darkness of the warehouse. Suddenly, a dark purple surge of electricity raced through his body. He convulsed violently as a strange power erupted from within. He screamed in agony as his body defied his control. "Quad! Damn it! My body!" The pain sent him collapsing onto the straw, his weak hand instinctively burying deep into the cold hay. He widened his eyes, gasping in shock, "Huh!" as he realized a strange sensation was invading his body. Those thin hands with old scars slowly tightened, feeling an unprecedented weakness. "This body, it's not mine." His trembling hand touched his bony chest, wondering in shock, "What on earth are these wounds?" He limped to the window, the dim blue moonlight illuminating the ancient landscape outside. His red eyes widened as game world memories flooded back. A crazy truth began to take shape. "I know where this is. Its name is Murim, right?" He slumped by the window, eyes blankly staring into the dark, trying to accept the unthinkable. His frail body shook, not from cold, but from a morbid excitement rising within. He collapsed in the shadows, his gaunt frame curled near the faint light from the door. Amidst the pouring rain, his hand clenched. A single tear rolled from his haunting red eyes. Tears flowed incessantly, not out of sorrow, but out of sheer ecstasy as he whispered, "My wish has come true." A ding sounded, and the system window appeared. Player, Dong Bongsu. Welcome to Murim Online, the world where the strongest reign. And then, a bone-chillingly insane smile spread across the psychopath's lips. The scene shifted to a filthy stable, where he was busy using a pitchfork to clear the stinking straw. Horses neighed and snorted, breaking the silence of the tedious manual labor. Now he was just a low-ranking stable boy, tending horses in a corner of the martial arts hall. Suddenly, a burly man burst through the door, shouting, "Hey, Sosum!" He turned around with a start, responding timidly, "Ah, Master Machil," completely hiding the demonic nature within. The man pinched his nose in disgust, yelling, "Follow me right now. I have work for you." He replied timidly, Right now? I haven't finished cleaning the stalls." A thunderous punch suddenly slammed into his face, sending him reeling. The man glared threateningly, growling, "Do I look like I'm asking for your opinion?" He grabbed him by the hair, pulling him back while beating and cursing. "Just because the Danry family took in and raised a stuttering orphan like you, you seem to have forgotten your place. You are simply a slave. Understand?" Humiliated, his eyes darkened. One pupil turned white while the other flashed a red, vengeful gaze. Machil led him to an old forge, where a middle-aged man waited beside a pile of weapons gone gang. The man frowned. "Huh? Are you the new one, Dongo? Where's Machil?" The fat man smirked, replying mockingly, "Humph, you know it, old man. Master Machil is at the Phoenix Tavern with Engeng again." Dongo snapped his fingers, finishing with a look of disdain. "Drinking," the blacksmith sighed. "Fine, I suppose it's all right. But are you the only two who came?" He pointed at the mountain of weapons, expressing concern. "It'll be hard to move this mountain with just two people." Dongo laughed, pointing at Dong Bongsu. "Hey old friend, don't you see? Right here, we have a perfect pack horse to use." Then he suddenly pushed Dong Bongsu forward. Dong Bongsu fell flat on his face, coughing, while Dong-o looked down condescendingly. "Sosum, what are you doing?" His face darkened, eyes glowing with malice as he growled, "Get up and start carrying these weapons. Right now." He clapped his hands as if struck by a brilliant idea. "Ah, right," he turned back, pretending to suddenly remember. "Now that I think about it, I also have an appointment at the Phoenix Tavern. Oh my. Looks like our brother Sosum has to handle all the heavy work today." Dong-o left, leaving a final word for the slumped Sosum. "I'm off. Work hard." The blacksmith stood stunned, unable to believe his eyes. He only bowed his head and sighed, eyes showing pity for the young man's cruel fate. Despite his frail body, Sosum gritted his teeth and hoisted a bag of weapons several times his weight, stumbling along. The massive sack was full of blades. Every step felt like 1,000 pounds pressing on his thin shoulders. He ran with all his might, swords clattering to the ground along the way. Hundreds of weapons were sloppily packed, their sharp tips pointing in all directions. Sosum collapsed in exhaustion, his small body crushed under the pile, but he immediately struggled back up. He used all his strength to drag the heavy bag the long distance. The sun set behind the curved roofs, signaling the end of the day of forced labor. The blacksmith found the exhausted Sosum, praising and worrying. "Good job, but shouldn't you rest a bit?" The blacksmith looked at Sosum's thin back, worrying. "You look so pale, almost like a dying person." But Sosum just looked down, whispering, "I am fine." He stumbled away, leaving the blacksmith's voice echoing behind. "Sosum, Sosum, it's so cold." A mysterious voice echoed in his head, sowing doubt. "Do you really want to continue this pathetic, insect-like life?" His body gave out, collapsing on the cold dirt road. In the darkness, his soulless eyes were left with only emptiness and despair. A giant with red demonic eyes blocked his way, roaring, "Who the hell are you? Piss off." Sosum looked up, trying to apologize. I. Sorry." But before he finished, a thunderous punch slammed into his face, extinguishing any intent. A memory flashed, images of this body being brutally tortured in the past, asking, "When and where did everything go wrong? Was it when my family died in the storm and I was the sole survivor? Or when I knocked on the Danri family's door just to stay alive? Perhaps everything was wrong, since the moment I was born into a cold world like this." In the infinite darkness, a weak whisper rang out, "Help me." Sosum bowed his head on the cold floor, the faint light from the barred window his only hope. His red eye stared wide in the dark, flashing a strange light. He suddenly jolted up, body trembling as if from a nightmare. He staggered to the horse's feeding trough, trying to regain his senses. Looking at his blurred reflection in the water, he finally confirmed his new identity. Sosum. So that's this child's name. He let out a gasp, "Ugh," hands gripping the wood to stay balanced. Sosum stood in the stable, staring blankly into space, piecing together fragments of memory. This seemed to be the stable from his memories. In that case, the real Sosum was beaten to death then, and I entered his body. He frowned. "Huh? Wait. Isn't this?" A virtual status window appeared, with strength, agility, and intelligence stats at, "Welcome to Murim Online, the world where the strongest reign." A status window from Murim Online? Meanwhile, Machil was carrying a bowl of porridge up the steps. He grumbled in annoyance. "Why do I always have to do this damn work?" he roared. "Am I the only one in the entire Danri family who can clean up that bastard's mess?" He thought bitterly. He should have gone straight back to the stable after work, and he had to run into Pung Dorang, of all people, a man known for his temper. Machil muttered. "I even called Dong-o over just in case." He gnashed his teeth. "Damn it, to think that the great Machil has to clean up after this pathetic worm. Should I just kill him and be done with it?" But he clicked his tongue, dismissing the thought. Too risky. If caught, my neck would be the first on the block. Then he kicked the stable door open. Seeing Sosum sitting there, Machil threw the bowl of porridge at him, yelling, "Lord, you idiot! Why did you have to survive to cause me all this trouble?" The bowl shattered on the ground, food splattering over Sosum's bruised body. Sosum slowly raised his soulless face, eyes showing no emotion at the insult. "Has it been 2 weeks?" He thought, 2 weeks since I woke up here. During that time, he gathered info from manhwa and the outside. First, Sosum secretly observed the training hall from the stable's darkness. People here used hanja, but it wasn't China. That's because of the supernatural, martial arts, fantastic techniques once thought possible only in novels. People flew around and moved faster than the eye could follow. Hundreds of warriors shouted slogans, practicing powerful moves on the field. Sosum's red eyes flashed with excitement at the sight. In this world, those martial arts were alive. It's like a real-life version of Murim Online. Second, the status window and system. It was certain this Murim Online status window was active and only I could see it. At first, I thought this was inside a game, but this place is undeniably real. People have their own emotions and act as if they are living. Those warriors outside aren't pre-programmed NPCs. This raises the question, am I a human or a player? He sat silently by the cold porridge, trying to digest this crazy truth. Suddenly, Dong-o peeked in, mocking. Our brother Sosum seems to be living a good life. His face darkened. While some of us are being scolded and even punished because of some idiot, you were waiting for this, weren't you? You son of a bitch. He entered, towering over the motionless Sosum, signaling a beating. Dong-o froze at Sosum's strange behavior, muttering, "Huh." Without a word, Sosum quietly picked up the bowl manhwa had thrown. He tilted his head back and downed it, ignoring the fat man. Dong-o exploded. You brat. Your brother is talking to you. You really want to die. The threat was cut by a blood-red gaze flashing death. A crash sounded. Sosum crushed the bowl in his hand, turning it into a sharp weapon. He lunged, slicing Dong-o's throat with a shard, leaving him speechless. Ha! Sosum's red eyes glowed in the dark, a manic smile on his face. Then he grabbed the bleeding jaw, ending his first life in this world. He whispered into the dying man's ear, "Guak Dong-o, the child you once knew." Dong-o only uttered a final groan, eyes rolling back in death, because the real Sosum died long ago. Manhwa heard a strange noise and turned back, gasping, "Gulp!" He was stunned to see Sosum strangling Dong-o, punching his face repeatedly. Blood splattered. Sosum drove a shard into Dong-o's temple, ending him. He roared like a wild beast. Killer instinct crushed the victim's skull. Covered in blood, Sosum stood up, red eyes glowing in the slaughter. He stood over the corpse, shrouded in a blood-red killing intent. His bloodlust burned, turning him into a true demon. He closed his eyes, savoring the feeling. It's hot. Amidst the slaughter, the question of identity rose. Am I human or a player? But he brushed it off. None of that matters. He licked the blood off his hand. Just as I thought, this place, without a doubt, is reality. The great law of this world, the weak are prey for the strong are revered. If it's a place like this, I can hunt to my heart's content without hiding my nature. People like me, no, even stronger, more monstrous carnivores than I, are surely roaming free in the jungle they call Murim. He wiped the blood, eyes gleaming with cruel determination. Once this body recovers, I will continue the hunt. Right here, the land of true predators. Here, in this new Murim world, is where I begin. Blood splattered across the wooden wall, staining the dark stable beside the cold corpse. Sosum sat quietly in the pool of blood, pondering his first prey. He analyzed the situation, trying to find the laws of this world. Normally, a guy like him wasn't even worth hunting. But there was something I needed to confirm. He looked at Dong-o's corpse, preparing to test an important feature. Inventory, he muttered. A blue system panel appeared. He frowned. Humph. Something's not right. The inventory in Murim Online was grid-based, with each slot holding one item, but the inventory here was an open, vast space. He reached into the virtual space, feeling like he touched rippling water. This space feels huge, maybe a few hundred square meters. He turned to the corpse. A crazy thought flashed through his mind. This is how it worked in the game, right? He muttered and approached the body. He pressed his hand to the face, ordering coldly, "Save to inventory." The corpse disintegrated into pixels and was sucked into a spatial hole. Sosum stepped back in shock at the surreal sight. The massive body, vanished in an instant. His red eyes lit up. This is extremely useful. I can definitely exploit this. Another question arose. Wait, if so, can living beings enter? And if they can, will they stay alive? Or, a wicked smile appeared as he thought, I'll have to experiment a bit more. A few days later, Sosum was sweeping the yard, ignoring two warriors chatting nearby. They were talking about something, laughing while Sosum continued his work. Their smirk was full of mockery, signaling a malicious prank. Sosum turned when called, face blankly staring at the troublemaker. He suddenly felt a surge of killing intent. Instinct warned of danger. Machil suddenly slapped him hard, the force spinning his head. He grabbed Sosum's hair. Hey idiot, I heard you went mute. Sosum feigned stupidity, babbling nonsense, eyes rolling like a madman. Machil roared, damn it, don't just stand there lazy, you mute bastard. He pointed at a horse, ordering, go take that horse for a walk. Sosum bowed, babbling, acting terrified. Machil grumbled, Lord, what do I do with a guy who can't even speak properly? Sosum trudged through the crowded, bustling market with the horse. The marketplace was packed with people and shops, creating a busy scene. Everyone was busy. No one noticed the thin stable boy passing by. Sosum's blank eyes observed with indifference. Suddenly, a group of mischievous kids hid behind a corner, preparing a prank. They threw a stone at Sosum, shouting, YH! The stone hit his head with a thud. Scratched and bleeding, Sosum looked down, hiding the red eye flashing death. The kids teased, Nananana stupid Sosum. They say he can't even talk anymore. The leader pointed, mute Sosum. But then he froze. A cold aura filled the space. Sosum's eyes glowed in the dark like red coals. The kid rubbed his eyes in fear, unable to believe what he saw. Sosum turned, babbling nonsense with a fake naive smile, patting the horse. He calmly led the horse away, leaving the confused kids behind. One of them burst out laughing in mockery. They continued throwing stones and shouting, stuttering Sosum, unaware they were taunting the Reaper. In the dark, a spectral voice echoed, mute Sosum, he can't do anything, signaling a tragic end. Sosum bowed his head, letting his black hair hide the insane smile blooming on his lips. He trudged away, leaving the mockery behind, his mind filled only with the excitement of a predator.
Meanwhile, Machil grumbled, HMPH.
Someone like me, Machil, stuck with cleaning weapons. That bastard Guak Dong-o hasn't shown his face for days. Standing before Dong-o's door, he muttered, could he have died somewhere? He opened the door, stunned to see Sosum walking out. Huh? What the hell? Why are you coming out of here? Machil peered inside, his pupils dilating in surprise. Dong-o's messy room had been cleaned spotlessly, the weapons polished to a shine. He stammered, unable to believe his eyes. Don't tell me? You're doing my work too. Sosum only offered a naive smile, yet it sent a shiver down the other man's spine. Machil thought, after that near-death experience, he's completely changed. He works hard and even does things he wasn't assigned. Could this kid finally be becoming a decent human? Sosum held out a pouch of money, babbling, ugh, like a clumsy bribe. Machil asked in surprise, what's this? Then took the pouch, feeling its weight. His eyes widened. He couldn't believe the mute kid was so sensible. He burst into hearty laughter, putting an arm around Sosum. Fa ha ha, you little brat. Finally, you've learned how the world works.
Machil patted Sosam's face, sounding pleased.
Good. Keep it up from now on. He smugly clutched the pouch, leaving Sosum standing silently with a broom in hand. Sosum watched his back, thinking, what an idiot. He doesn't even realize that's the fare for his journey to hell. Machil muttered as he walked. That's right. Instead of just bowing every day, you need to know how to be flexible like this. He tossed the pouch, saying happily, let's see. My pockets are full today. A lewd smile crossed his lips. Instead of eng, maybe I'll go see that old fox Chosian today. Machil tossed the money pouch, walking proudly into the Phoenix Tavern under the glowing red lanterns. A fat owner greeted him warmly. Welcome. Heavens, if it isn't Brother Machil. Machil responded with a blunt demand. Yeah, go call Chozian for me. The owner bowed, trying to arrange the usual. Yes, you're familiar. The owner froze. Wait, Chozian? Machil grinned in confirmation. That's right, the smile on the owner's face vanished, replaced by a look of doubt and calculation. Seeing the attitude, Machil growled, showing the pouch. What's with that look, brat? I have money here. Seeing the money, the owner instantly changed his tune, grinning. Thank you, sir. If you'll wait in the last room on the second floor, I'll bring Chozian right away. Machil sat alone in the room, drinking wine and eagerly awaiting the beauty. Suddenly, a cold voice rang out from outside the door. I'm coming in now. A stunning beauty with a seductive figure entered, her voice sweet. I am Chozian. Machil swallowed hard, thinking, Aang can't even compare to her beauty. He cleared his throat, trying to act dignified to hide his surging desire. Ahem, sit here. Chozian knelt, saying gently, Let this humble girl pour you a glass, making Machil ecstatic. He laughed gleefully, quickly agreeing, Yes, yes.
Pour me one.
Oh, oh. Meanwhile, through a crack in the paper wall, a cold voice whispered, By the way, your hands are so soft. A red eye flashed, continuing the enticing whisper. Come a little closer. Yes, yes. Closer still. Through the crack, the demon's eye watched the prey, waiting for the perfect moment. A cruel and morbid smile bloomed on the predator's lips as he prepared to strike. The owner's words echoed, If you'll wait in the last room on the second floor, I'll bring Chozian right away. Unaware he had led a wolf into the house, the owner watched Machil's back as he entered the Phoenix Tavern. He muttered with a look of disdain. Tage, picking a girl young enough to be his daughter. He opened the pouch Machil had given him, the gold coins shimmering in the dark. A greedy smile appeared, he told himself. But money itself is not guilty. While absorbed in counting, he jumped as a figure appeared at the door. Welcome. Huh? You are. He narrowed his eyes, surprised to see the newcomer was the low-ranking stable boy. Sosum? Sosum trudged past, not even glancing at the owner once. The man blocked his path, speaking arrogantly and dismissively. Hey, mute, do you know where you are? His face darkened, threatening him outright. Get out right now or else. Without a word, Sosum silently held out Machil's money pouch, leaving the owner stunned. Sosum babbled, trying to say a name. The owner snatched the pouch, a cunning greed flashing in his eyes. Inside were shimmering gold coins, a significant amount of money. The owner's pupils contracted. A dark plan began to form in his head. He grinned, instantly changing his attitude. If you wait in the second room from the end on the second floor, I'll bring Engeng right away. Sosum trudged upstairs while the owner watched with a sinister smile. In the dark room, a bandaged hand held a white silk ribbon, preparing for a new hunt. Machil was undressing, startled when a dark shadow suddenly appeared behind him. He even boastfully flexed his muscles. Heh! This Machil is still in top form. Unaware death was at his throat. And then, the white silk tightened around his throat, ending his life in absolute silence. Machil jumped, feeling a cold loop suddenly tighten around his throat from behind. He panicked, trying to call for help but only emitting muffled gasps. The silk tightened, cutting off his breath, leaving him groaning in pain. Ugh! The pressure increased, mercilessly strangling the life out of the large man. Sosum gripped the victim tight. Machil stammered in his death throes. Kind of bastard are you? Without a word, Sosum jerked the man's head back, breaking all weak resistance. He easily slammed Machil's large frame onto the floor like a rag doll. The man's entire body hit the ground with a dry thud, causing excruciating pain. Sosum pinned him down, hands tightening the silk, determined to end the prey with his own hands. After a desperate struggle, Machil's body finally went limp, lying motionless on the floor. Sosum tightened the silk, feeling the life fade away in his hands. A savage smile spread across his lips, red eyes gleaming with morbid satisfaction. He threw his head back, savoring absolute dominance as the prey struggled in vain. Finally, Machil stopped breathing, his body limp, eyes rolled back soullessly. Sosum glanced sideways to where the woman named Chosian lay motionless. She was still sound asleep, unaware of the tragedy that had occurred right beside her. He stood up, walked to Machil's corpse, then looked back at the woman. The girl lay curled in bed, her beauty fragile and weak like a fading flower. Sosum sat down, his dark shadow enveloping the girl's bare form. His gaze darkened. Another dark thought arose in the psychopath's mind. Sosum looked at the sleeping girl, thinking, she is a herbivore. She has neither the will nor the strength to protect herself. He silently stood up, took the blood-stained silk, and turned to walk away. Sosum stood before the wall, beside the corpse of Machil and the sleeping woman. He pressed his hand to the wall, preparing for a bold new experiment. His bandaged hand slowly pressed against the cold wooden surface. Save to inventory. A blue light erupted, swallowing a large section of the wall. He thought with satisfaction, good thing I practiced using the inventory. It will certainly be a great help for my future hunts. He sat down beside the corpse. His eyes flickered. A perfect plan to hide the crime had formed. Sosum looked at the status window, muttering, just as I predicted. After the kill, his experience bar had increased slightly. I've received experience points. Killing in this world grants experience points. And with enough experience I can level up. Leveling up makes you stronger. His red eyes lit up. A perfect cycle of destruction began to form. And being stronger makes hunting easier. If hunting becomes easier, I can gain experience even faster. Which means, in this world, I can become infinitely strong. What a wonderful world. He stood up, taking the silk used to strangle Machil. He wrapped it around the corpse's neck, creating a sophisticated fake scene. Looking at his work, he muttered with regret, too bad I don't have a camera. The owner waited impatiently outside, arms crossed in the empty hallway. A girl ran up in a hurry, bumping into him. She panted, asking, are they inside? The owner grumbled, Eng, what took you so long? Get in there. He might be mute, but he's still a paying customer. The girl replied, yes. Then opened the door, her voice sweet. Sorry, am I a bit late? The owner watched her, muttering, anyway. He pressed his ear to the door, trying to listen, then wondered, are they trying to have a baby or what? He cleared his throat, acting serious. After a while he knocked. Brother Machil, it's been a long time. Come out, Chosian. Another customer is waiting. Actually, you need rest too. Inside the room, only a bone-chilling silence responded. The owner tensed, his neck veins bulging. Are these bastards just looking down on me? He roared, preparing to break the door down. Machil, you, kayak! A woman's piercing scream suddenly rang out from inside, cutting through his rage. The owner panicked, kicking the door open. What happened? Inside, Chosian was trembling on the bed, eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. The owner's pupils dilated, then rolled back in sheer horror. He collapsed to the ground, his whole body shaking like a leaf. Hanging from the rafters was Machil's corpse, feet dangling in the air. He stammered, unable to believe the sight. Brother, Machil, Manhwa. In the north, the Huai River flows, and in the center, the Yangtze River flows, forming a vast plain. This land, since ancient times, has been known for its fertile lands and the intersection of many lakes and rivers, allowing commerce and trade to flourish. However, where there is money, there is theft, and as bandits and evil sects ran rampant, many stood up to oppose them, and many families and sects specializing in protecting the rules of Murim were founded in Manhwa. Among them, the most prominent families were the Namgung family, one of the 5 great families of the Central Plains and the greatest sect in Manhwa, and the Danri family. Although the Danri family cannot compare to the Namgung, they have the family's specialized combat force, the Heaven-Piercing Sword Division, and with the intelligence and enforcement group, the Black Crow Squad. Their reputation has become famous throughout Manhwa. The information-gathering capabilities of the Black Crow Squad are particularly formidable, so much so that even the Beggar sect, which prides itself as second under heaven in information, had to admit that Danri's Black Crow Squad is superior in that aspect, at least in Manhwa. But recently, that very Black Crow Squad has been struggling with a new case. A secret report was submitted to the captain of the Black Crow Squad. That person was G.I. Daehyo, captain of the Black Crow Squad. G.I. Daehyo sighed. Another suicide. This is a plague. In the past few months, nearly 100 people have taken their own lives. There have always been suicides, but at most only 1 or 2 a month, never this many. Something is definitely strange. The strangest part is that the cases are all suspiciously perfect. The evidence and circumstances of each case clearly point to suicide. But is that really possible? He asked his subordinate. Who was the first to die? The subordinate replied, a blacksmith from the family, a man named Machil. G.I. Daehyo was surprised. From the family? You mean the Danri family? The subordinate confirmed. Yes, he pondered. So where did this Machil commit suicide? The subordinate reported. At an inn, sir. The Phoenix Tavern. G.I. Daehyo stood up, ordering, let's go. The subordinate tried to stop him. Excuse me? Surely the captain doesn't need to go in person, but he was firm. No. I must see for myself. G.I. Daehyo and his team arrived at the Phoenix Tavern, where the first murder occurred. He stood before the room, asking the owner, is this the room? The owner bowed, trembling. Yes, sir. Chosian and I found Machil hanging from the rafters of this very room. G.I. Daehyo thought, if this suicide plague is actually a series of murders, how did the culprit enter this room to kill Machil? He carefully checked every door, every window, not missing a single detail. He knelt, checking even the floor, looking for suspicious traces. I've searched every nook and cranny. There's no way a culprit could have entered without being seen. He stood up, pressing his hand against the wooden wall, sharp eyes flashing. In that case, the only remaining possibility is here. His gaze stopped at a small crack in the wall, a detail seemingly harmless but containing a horrific secret. If these wooden panels were removed, it would create a free passage. The problem is, these panels have never been removed. G.I. Daehyo asked his subordinate. Tell me, is there any way to take these panels out without removing the roof? The subordinate replied, no, sir. These panels are set in grooves in the ceiling and floor beams, he affirmed. It's impossible to pull them out without dismantling the beams first. G.I. Daehyo fell into deep thought again. So, is this really a suicide? He turned to ask the owner. Was anyone in the next room when Machil died? The owner replied, yes, there was another guest in that room. He probably arrived at the same time as Machil. G.I. Daehyo pressed. Who was it? The owner answered, Sosum of the Danri family. Meanwhile, Sosum was trudging along a busy street with his horse, completely unaware he had become the prime suspect. The experience points I got from the man I killed nearby the other day were greater than those I've killed before. That man must have been a martial artist. Killing a stronger person yields a larger amount of experience points. But if I fight a real martial artist now, I'll definitely lose. Even the weakest Danri family warrior is stronger than me. I need a prey that can bridge the gap between commoners and martial artists. Like the one I killed the other day. A loud voice interrupted his thoughts. Well, long time no see. Our little Sosum has become quite handsome, hasn't he? A group of thugs blocked the way. The leader speaking up, Hey, Sosum. Long time no see. You should greet your seniors when you see them. Seeing Sosum's silence, another said, Is he really giving us the cold shoulder? The leader laughed. No way our little Sosum would do that. Sosum glanced over, cold eyes evaluating the new prey. Street punks? No matter how much of a failure Sosum was, he was still a member of the family. Humph. He thought. Did he really live his whole life being bullied by trash like this? A sudden punch hit Sosum's face. The thug roared. Are you really ignoring us? The leader put an arm around Sosum, threateningly. Seems like we need to have a private chat with our Sosum. They dragged him into a dark alley. The horse neighed in fear. Sosum thought. Could I kill them all here and make it look like a suicide? If I put the corpses in the inventory and dump them elsewhere, it might work. But if I cause trouble here, there's a risk of being caught. And it's not like I'll get much experience from killing all of them. For now, I'll take the beating and deal with them later. The leader punched Sosum's gut, mocking. Long time no see. But you've clearly been eating well and living fine. Suddenly, a cold voice rang out from the shadows, interrupting the gang beating. Stop, a stranger's voice reproached. Didn't I tell you to bring him here nicely? The thug panicked, stammering, Django, sir. Sosum glanced over, mentally evaluating the newcomer. Django? The man named Django ignored the thugs, eyes lighting up at the horse. What a good horse. He explained his plan. Our black market leader is an extreme horse lover, so I thought about giving him this horse as a gift. Django turned to Sosum, asking with a sinister smile, What do you think? His smile became increasingly terrifying, revealing white teeth and dark intentions. Such blatant killing intent. So this was his goal from the start. He intends to kill me and steal the horse. However, he picked the wrong prey. Django lost patience, growling, You seem to have a lot to say, but I won't ask a second time. Sosum raised his head, challenging, Then just kill me. Why bother asking a second time? The thug was stunned, yelling, Huh, you can talk. Before he could recover, a thunderous kick hit Django's face. Sosum muttered, Inventory. A blue light erupted, swallowing the horse. A sword suddenly appeared from the virtual space, piercing through Django. A piercing scream rang out. His face twisted in pain and sheer horror, unable to believe what was happening. Django stammered in his death throes, blood spilling from his mouth. Just how? Sosum gripped the sword tight, cold eyes watching the prey struggle in vain. Suddenly, a blinding light from above shone down, enveloping the floating horse. A horrific explosion occurred, throwing everything around, shattering the small alley. The wounded thug screamed in pain. Chains! Those are chains. A notification appeared. Murim Online, congratulations. You have leveled up. Level 1 level 2 inch. The thug stared in horror, unable to believe what he had just witnessed. Sosum stood amidst the vortex of blood-red killing intent, his shadow looking like a true demon. The thug trembled, screaming in panic, Demon! He is a demon! Run! No! Amidst the madness, he yelled a suicidal command. Kill him! Everyone, kill that damn demon!